Something's not right. One sec. All right. Now let's test this thing. Well, milk crates aside, I've been waiting to get my hands on the new KLR650 for well over a year. And now that I've had a week on this bike, let's talk about what you get for the very little money you're putting out for this very versatile motorcycle. I've had it on the highway, the back roads, gravel, trails, even single track, believe it or not. And I'm going to give you the lowdown on this thing as an adventure rider who owns two bikes which can be considered direct competitors to this motorcycle. I've ridden this thing on more extreme terrain than the vast majority of owners ever will. So stay tuned to this one, and if you find this content interesting, please consider supporting the channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. The Stand is my favorite book by Stephen King. It's widely considered his best work, and this scene from the Amazon miniseries prominently features the Gen 2 KLR650, although the sound editors dubbed in a goofy inline-4 engine, choosing not to showcase the real KLR's clackety 651cc single. Huh. The actress that shall not be named screwing a guy over. Imagine that. Yep, the Kawasaki KLR650 is definitely famous, or infamous. Few bikes achieve the kind of cult-like status that the KLR650 enjoys, and the main reason for that status is the price. A base KLR650 has an MSRP of $6,700 American dollars or 7,500 Canadian without ABS. Strangely, the fully loaded adventure version with the bags, engine guards, light bar, fog lamps, and DC and USB sockets runs $8,000 US but $10,000 Canadian. It's weird that in Canadian dollars the base bike is only $800 more while the accessorized one costs $2,000 more. In effect, Canadians are just getting a slamming deal on the base model. Now, it must be pointed out that the KLR650 is, by a mile, the least expensive globally distributed mid-sized adventure motorcycle on the planet. Its price actually resides in the small adventure motorcycle price range, as it's only a few $100s more pricey than the 300cc Kawasaki Versys X, the same price as my wife's Honda CRF 300L Rally, and considerably less expensive than the 471cc Honda CB500X. So how does the bike the size of the middleweights manage to cost as much as the small bikes? By having as much power as the small bikes. So let's talk engine first. 40 horsepower, 40 pound-feet of torque squarely in small bike territory while weighing as much as a Tenere 700, which is the least powerful mid-sized ADV bike with 72 horsepower and 50 pound-feet. How does this big 651cc thumper feel? Clunky and agricultural. It's not refined at all, and the bike is definitely low in the power department. Its road performance lags behind other bikes its size. The brakes are mushy, the suspension is mushy. This is not a bike you want to hustle through a twisty paved road chasing your friend on an R1250 GS. In effect, this bike feels like it's from 1987. Because it is. That's when it was first introduced, and despite the fact that it has since been updated, most recently last year, it feels about as old school as a motorcycle gets. Once the older carbureted version from 2018 failed to meet Euro emission standards and got discontinued, we all expected a new twin-cylinder Tenere fighter, perhaps built around the Ninja 650 motor. Nope, back comes the KLR, updated bodywork, frame, and sporting fuel injection, but with the same engine and 5-speed gearbox as the last one. And why not? Kawasaki is going to sell them all to happy customers regardless. Wait a minute, underpowered engine, mushy everything including the foot pegs and seat, 1980s technology and performance, and on top of everything else, 5-speed trans and non-ABS option, which is the one I tested, and they'll sell them all? Yup, and I started to find out why on my first ride home. I hit the highway, got up to speed no problem, and settled in behind the barn door of a fairing for the hour-plus ride home. And you know what? It was a pretty nice ride. The engine vibrations were detectable, but not the high-frequency, unpleasant kind. Power was adequate, but enough to keep up, even with the traffic in the fast lane. And the seating position was pleasant and roomy enough for my 5'11" or 181cm frame. And the bike was stable in crosswinds around big trucks. No small adventure bike feels this good on the highway. The 34.3-inch seat height feels slightly lower than my Tenere 700 despite the seat being wider. This may have something to do with the suspension sagging more on the KLR while my T7 setup is stiffer. Brooke didn't ride the bike because at her 5'6.5" or 169cm she was on her tippy toes and the bike was too top heavy for her. It's a big beast. Speaking of the seat, we have some good and some bad here. The seat is extremely roomy even for the two of us. We went on a 3-hour 2-up country cruise and never felt cramped. However, both of our butts eventually went numb because the seat padding is on the soft side. I changed the saddle for something more firm. So on pavement, the ride was good at relaxed speeds, although the pogo-y suspension made me hesitant to push the KLR650 hard into paved corners. At relaxed speeds, it's a pretty nice ride. You could tour the world on this thing, and many riders who are unencumbered by worries of image and ego happily buy these and go ride with their buddies on GS's and KTM super adventures. No, they can't keep up at a sporty pace, but they also paid 1/3 the price for a bike that can essentially get you to the same places, albeit a bit slower. It even has the range of a proper touring bike with a pretty large 23-liter fuel tank. Expect to cover well over 400 kilometers before even having to think about a gas station. And so we get to the off-road portion of this test, and as an off-road enthusiast, I try to take off-road bikes into their natural habitat and determine what they're like in the rough stuff. And KLR650 owners tend to care about that stuff because unlike a large percentage of the riders of the expensive hardware, the KLR crowd likes to play in the dirt. So is the KLR650 an ace off-road? No. It is big and top-heavy, and the non-adjustable suspension that is too soft on pavement is also too soft on the dirt. But here's where you find out why the brakes are so mushy on the road. Because for off-roading, you don't want them too sensitive or you'll wash out the front end. The non-ABS units on my tester did their job and hold this huge bike down decently well, especially off-road. The first time I hit the trail, the bike felt ungainly and vague, and the stock tires did not provide great traction in the loose stuff. But then I started getting used to it. I dropped the tire pressure, slowed down the pace, and let a couple of bars tick off the fuel gauge, making the bike less top-heavy. And what do you know, I started getting the hang of the old girl. I took her on gravel, on ATV trails, rocky climbs and descents, and even on some twisty single track, and I'll be danged if she didn't roll over everything I pointed her at. The ground clearance is listed at 8.3 inches, but seems like less with me on the bike and the shock sagging. I bounced the engine guards off a few rocks and roots on the trail, but no harm done. That's what they're there for. Don't be getting your motocross gear out yet. This is no dirt bike. On the rougher trails, you'd better take your time. This is a bike that does not like to hurry. And if, like me, you're dumb enough to ride this thing on single track, prepare for a workout. But she made it. And more importantly, she made it with 0 drops. And quite frankly, there are a lot of bikes that cost twice as much that wouldn't have done any better. As long as you harbor no delusions of looking like a hero on the trail, you can get there. Be mindful of the fact that it takes a lot more skill and effort to ride this kind of bike off-road than a dirt bike. So, despite the KLR's deficiencies, you get a lot for your money here. The regular bike is a do-it-all machine which is comfortable on the road and has pretty decent weather protection. It's basic and rather heavy, but you get a luggage rack standard and a bash plate, a plastic one. You also get some plastic handguards that are going to keep the wind off your hands but will break easily when you drop the bike. The adventure version of the bike, which is the one I tested, has some extra goodies. Alright, so this is the adventure version of the KLR650. It comes with a few extras. As you can see, we've got this light bar over here. It's attached with the lights. Love the lights. They are very bright and make you extremely visible. If you throw that on, you can see you are really visible on the road. The Kawasaki headlight looks nice. The one thing I don't like about the lights is that they stick out beyond the bars. So if you drop the bike, guess what you're dropping it on right there. In addition, the adventure model comes with engine guards right here. I've already taken it on the single track and the bike is pretty dirty right now, but I've already Banged it off some rocks on the single track, and the bars came in nice and handy. The Adventure version comes with these bags, and these bags are standard. The top box is not. So the bags operate with the key for the bike, and we've got the lock. This is the lock. This is the unlock. You can open the bag by just popping it open. You can see there's plenty of room in there. They are plastic. So this button here opens the bag. This button here takes it off, but this one's super finicky, I find, and it doesn't want to open or take the bag off. So there is a trick. I open the bag here, and this is the mechanism over here. How does it work? Right there, that takes the bag off. So that's the easy way to do it. If you want to struggle with it, you could do it the other way, but this is by far better. The top box is an accessory. The lock is right here. This is locked, which means the top box is attached to the rack, and this is unlocked. If you just want to unlock the top box, here's a handy carrying case. You pull that, and the thing opens. This easily holds my Adventure helmet with a GoPro on the front. So that closes. You have to click this down and lock it, and boom, you're locked. Now if you want to take the whole thing off, there we go. You unlock, take the handle up, pop this open, and off comes the whole case. And here's the attachment for it that goes on the rack. In addition, my tester had a DC socket. You can also get an optional USB charger, and was equipped with the accessory heated grips and top box. The heated grips were excellent 5-way units that roasted your hands at the highest setting. Definitely appreciated by a Canadian. In terms of looks, it clearly is a KLR650. It doesn't look much different from the previous model, which was discontinued in 2018. The lines are a bit sharper and more angular, and this new model sports the new Kawasaki headlight design, which I like. With a proper high fender and 21 and 17-inch wheels, it looks the business, though I would have preferred an 18-inch rear for its slightly larger footprint and expanded off-road tire choice. The standard models come in desert sand and orange, while the Adventure is camo gray. I like the sand best as it looks military and harkens back to the KLRs that the Army modified to run on diesel. Features and technology? It's got an engine and brakes. ABS is optional. I prefer not to have it because it's better for off-roading. What about reliability? This is a Japanese motorcycle, so the expectations are definitely high. And Japanese bikes are generally quite sturdy and well built. But what about the Doohickey, you ask? You know, the counterbalance tensioner system that has a history of wearing down, and at best causing chain vibration and wear, and at worst disintegrating and blowing up your engine. How pervasive was this? More common in the first generation motors, but also noticeable in higher mileage Gen 2 bikes. So did Kawasaki finally fix it in this third generation bike? Nope. You should replace this part with an aftermarket unit before you hit 8,000 kilometers of riding. Other than that, this bike will probably be the last motorcycle standing after the zombie apocalypse. So why is this bike so popular? It's tall, heavy, accelerates slowly, brakes leisurely, handles like a wallowy Cadillac, and sounds like a John Deere. It's a handful off-road, and you'd better get that Doohickey taken care of before it pooches your engine or transmission. Well, as I rode this bike back at the end of the week in monsoon-level rain, the fairing keeping me decently dry, the heated grips keeping my hands cozy, the bags not leaking through on my gear, I believe that I finally understood. This is the ultimate utilitarian anti-poser machine. You won't find many of these parked at Starbucks. You'll find them in the forest or the desert with their owners warming up a cup of instant coffee on a campfire. Stereotype? Maybe. But often stereotypes are based on some truth. So, are you more rugged and individualistic if you ride a KLR? Maybe, maybe not. But what you are is a person who hasn't shackled themselves to monthly payments for a $30,000 piece of high-tech hardware which you will be afraid to take off-road because fixing it would cut your kid's college fund in half. Most riders are regular folks with mortgages and expenses and lives to live, and they want motorcycling to be a fun hobby that doesn't require huge sacrifices in their everyday lives. And the KLR650 provides the most adventure for the buck. Cross a continent? Sure. Ride 2 up? Sure. Ride off-road? Sure. Bushwhack to that beautiful spot off the beaten path to enjoy the view in solitude? No problem. Is the KLR650 the best bike for doing any of these things? No. But it can do them all competently enough without crushing your wallet. If I was younger and had a limited budget, I'd get it over the more expensive ADV bikes with the bigger power numbers. When Brooke and I went out for a 3-hour 2-up tour, we had an extremely enjoyable cruise in the country. And that's what the KLR is, a bike that will get you there at cruising speed. No hurry, no worry. It's actually nice having nothing to prove. You take less chances that way. Yep, in my week with it, I got what the KLR650 is all about. And I got why Kawasaki will sell every single one of them. In the future, I'll make a comparison video between the KLR and my Tenere 700. Although these two motorcycles, despite being the same size, are not the same price range. Actually, a base KLR is the exact same price as Brooke's CRF 300L Rally, so maybe that comparison is in order. Either way, stay tuned for a lot more adventure content. What do you think of the new KLR 650? With the number that have been sold since 1987, chances are you've owned one. How did you like it? Please share your thoughts in the comments and enjoy your summer riding. Well, it survived the single track. Everything still looks to be bolted to the bike. No damage. The pegs took a couple of hits. Yeah, maybe the engine guards did too a little bit, but other than being dirty, I think it's good. And with the top case, a full top case at that. All right, well, it's not a dirt bike, but it is definitely capable of getting down the trail. If you're interested in any of the gear that Brooke and I wear or use, or the camera equipment we use to film this channel, the links are below. Everything listed there was bought with our own money and we are not sponsored by any company. However, the links below are affiliate links and the channel is paid a small amount for referring you to shop at no additional cost to you. We do not recommend any products that we are not satisfied with ourselves, but we do strongly urge you to do your research and select the correct size for items like helmets and clothing. As always, thanks for watching, your support is greatly appreciated. Please hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. And whatever you ride, enjoy it. Wave at other bikers no matter what they're riding. We're all part of a brotherhood and sisterhood. Keep the rubber side down, shiny side up, and may the spokes be with you.